Hey, this is Josh for Retooled.net, and in this video we're going to be talking about the new features of Premiere Pro CC. That's the new version that's going to be coming out shortly, and I hope to give you guys a sneak peek of 15 of the cool new features coming to this version. Now I'm going to start with a few big ones, and I'm going to end with a few big features as well, so please stay tuned through the whole video to check out all the cool new features. And while you guys are checking out the new version of Premiere, please be sure to check out our new product, Color Retooled, which is a set of looks presets for Premiere Pro CC. A ton of easy presets that you can use in Premiere and SpeedGrade CC to quickly edit the look of your clips. Everything from brightness and contrast to vintage effects to things like vignettes that editors can quickly add to their clips and keep working. Also check out Relink Retooled, our conform tool for Premiere and Final Cut that will let you conform to your QuickTime media of different durations and file names than your original media. You can use it with combinations of tape name, file name, and of course you could use partial tape name and file name combined with metadata like timecode and frame rate to help you relink your clips quicker and easier than ever before. I'm going to start with a big one, and that's masking and tracking right here inside of Premiere. So let me show you what I mean. Now, let's say I want to do an effect, but I just want to apply it to a portion of the clip. Now, there were ways to do this in the past. You could check out some of our tutorials on using titles to create shapes and using them as track mattes for layers. But it's a bit cumbersome, and they've decided to make it a lot easier for us to do. So in sort of the classic easy example to show you guys, I'm going to say we want to mosaic out her face. So I'll apply the mosaic effect to this clip, but again, we just want to do it to her face. Now I'm going to make it a bit finer of a mosaic. And then what we can now do is click on one of these two shapes to create either an elliptical mask or create a 4-point polygonal mask. Now this is a face, so I'm going to go with the elliptical mask, and it'll create a mask that the effect will only be applied in that area. So you could see I could just drag it over to her face, and then I could basically tailor the shape to the shape of her face. I could even do things like feather it out, and there you go, I have this mask. Now, that's cool and all, except it doesn't stick to her face. So the really cool part is we now have a tracker built in. Now, this won't work for everything. It'll work on shapes that stay pretty consistent throughout the shot. In the case of her face, it shouldn't be a problem. So I'll just hit play, and it's going to go through tracking the shot. Now this shot's a little over 3 seconds. You'll see it'll take about 15-20 seconds to track, and then I'll have a mask that's fully tracked out to her face. So I'll just let that finish and we'll see what it looks like. Check it out, and we have this mask that is now tracked onto her face. Now I could see sort of the edges of her face, so I could even tweak things like mask expansion by dragging this out. And of course, it's not just limited to the tracker. Let's say I want another mask where that effect applies. I could come in here, set up my own custom shape, and then I could just tell it I want it to be keyframed by clicking on mask path and come to a later point and create my own keyframes as well. So you could do kind of your own custom shapes and roto. Now it is limited to the 4-point and the elliptical mask. I would really love to see a sort of pen tool added, but for now we have After Effects for that, and hopefully one day they'll get that in there. But you can see I now have my keyframes on my mask, and the effect only applied in that area. Now another cool use here is if I shut off my mosaic, and I don't worry about that for now, if we just want to do a mask for the layer, let's say I had another layer beneath this, I could come in here to the opacity, and opacity has actually been given a mask as well, and then I could just create sort of a transparency behind that. So if I had a background and I wanted to mask out her face and put it on that background, I could track it or keyframe it and have a mask on there as well. Of course, we have track forward and backward controls, as well as going 1 frame at a time controls. There are even some settings as to how you want to do the track, but that's a little more advanced, and you kind of get the point for now. It's a really great way to be able to do some simple compositing, or in some cases even fairly complex compositing right in the timeline. The second feature I want to cover is the reverse match frame. So I have this sequence here, and I have all these clips, and I could do a match frame, and that's been there for a long time. But let's say I want to do a reverse match frame. So what is a reverse match frame? If I click on F to do a match frame, I can see this is the original source clip and this is the frame I'm on. But let's say I want to find all instances of that frame in my sequence. I can scrub through and I could hit Shift R and it'll point me to the point in my sequence where that frame lives, and if I hit Shift R again, you'll see I have a duplicate of that clip, and it'll show me both instances and it'll toggle between them if I just keep hitting Shift R. Now, of course, I could do this on other clips as well. I'll hit F, go to another frame, hit Shift R, and it'll show me wherever my playhead is in the clip in the source monitor. It'll show it to me in the sequence itself. So it's a really nice new addition to help you find specific frames in your timeline. Another cool, simple new feature is the ability to maintain pitch while scrubbing. So what do I mean by this? In the past, if I was going fast through this clip, take a listen. So you could hear you kind of have that sort of chipmunk sound to it, and that made it harder, especially when you were doing things like dialogue, to be able to tell what the person was saying. So if I come in here to Premiere Pro Preferences and Audio, there's a new setting that says Maintain Pitch While Scrubbing. Hit OK, and now if I do a fast scrub on this, you'll notice that it maintains the pitch even backward, and it'll make it a lot easier to understand what people are saying, again, especially when you're doing dialogue work. So this is a really great new feature. The fourth thing I wanted to cover is the ability to assign more than one keyboard shortcut to a command. So let me show you what I mean. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is that there is now, in fact, a default keyboard command set up for the keyboard shortcut dialog, and that's Command Option K on a Mac. And let me show you what I mean. Let's take a very simple command of file save. Now, of course, that's Command S by default. And you'll notice I have this little box I could click on. I could X that out to delete it, but let's say I just wanted to add another shortcut to that, which is Control S. Let's say I work on a PC and a Mac a lot, so I'm used to going between those two. So I hit OK, and now I could hit Control S and it'll save, and I could hit Command S and it'll save, and I can easily get rid of one of them by just going back here, searching for save, and let's say I want to get rid of Control S, I'll just X that out and hit OK. The fifth thing I want to talk about is favorites in the media browser, and it's exactly what it sounds like. So if I tab over to the media browser, I can add favorites, which are quickly highlighted here. So let's say I have this folder that I access often, so let's say I'm in tutorial edits, and I want to set a favorites folder to this folder I'm in right now. I could right click on it and hit add to favorites, and that'll add it to my favorites folder. I could just as easily delete it by right clicking and hit remove from favorites. So it's really just that easy to add favorites that you could quickly access so you don't have to navigate through the hierarchy of all your hard drives. So the sixth thing I want to talk about is the set to frame size command. Now you might be thinking, well, that was there already, and there was something similar, but let me explain the difference. If I right click on this clip is 720, the sequence is 1080. So if I right click on it, there's two options, one which is scale to frame size and the other which is set to frame size. So let me show you the difference. Scale of frame size is the one that's been in there for a while. And if I click on it and go to the effects control, it's showing the scale of the clip at 100%. So basically what it's doing is it's scaling the clip to the size of the sequence but in the background. So a 720 clip seems like it's a 1080 clip, and it makes it easier on the processor to process things at the exact size, especially when you're dealing with 4K footage in a 1080 sequence. It'll actually downscale it. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you just want to scale it up so it's the exact size of your sequence? Now, this is really helpful when you're using photos and things that are kind of smaller dimensions and you just want to scale them up to the exact size of the sequence, and you want to know how much you're degrading the quality. And in the case of larger footage, say 4K clips, you want to know how much room you have to blow up your footage without degrading the quality. So if I right click and I uncheck scale to frame size, if I check set to frame size, you'll notice that my scale is now set to 150. So again, if this was a 4K clip, it would actually show it being at, say, 25% of the scale or 40% of the scale in a smaller sequence, so you know how much room you have to blow it up. So it's a nice new feature that just automatically scales the clip to the exact resolution of your sequence. So next thing I'm going to talk about is flattening a multicam edit. And we've been able to do this for a few months now, but there's a new and really important change to this workflow in that you can now maintain the effects when you flatten your multicam. So check out what I mean. I have a multicam edit here, and if I zoom in, you'll see all these are active multicam cameras, and if I hit play, you'll see I have some effects. So these just happen to be some of our color retooled looks that I have on there, but it could be anything. It could be blurs and color corrects, mosaics, whatever you want to use. But probably one of the more common examples will be Lumetri looks. So again, here, there's just some of our color retooled presets, and I just want to maintain these when I flatten my edit. So if you take a look at the workflow, I'm just going to show my whole sequence here, and I'm going to select everything and right click and go to multi-camera flatten. Now I get all of my original source material back so that I can more easily give this edit to other editors, to a color correction session, and just have all the actual source information instead of the multicam information. But the cool thing is, if I select this clip, you'll see I have a Bloom Brights Heavy, that's the color retooled preset. In this one I have a color retooled Vintage 3 look. In this one I have one of the color retooled Cartoon Edge effects. So again, you can just quickly keep all of your effects. You'll also notice that my dissolve here is still in place, and I didn't have to worry that flattening my multicam would make me lose these as it had in the past. The eighth thing I want to cover is really simple, and that is just the ability to do an autosave, but do it to the cloud. So if I come over into my preferences, I could come over to Preferences, Autosave, and you'll notice there's this new option that says Save Backup Project to Creative Cloud. Now it does warn me I need to install the Creative Cloud desktop application, and that's because this is a pre-release version of the software. But basically what it allows you to do is save a backup of your autosaves to the cloud. So let's say your local computer were to crash or you were to lose a hard drive, you always have that backup of the project in Creative Cloud so you wouldn't have to worry about it. So it's just a great use of Creative Cloud to be able to access your autosaves from anywhere, even in the event of a real serious computer failure. Number 9 is another simple one, and that has to do with markers. So I'm going to turn on overlays here just so you can see my marker names. And if I come and I hit Command-Shift-M, that'll take me to my previous marker, and you'll see it says name of marker. If I hit Shift-M, it'll say comment of marker. So those are just dummy things that I put into the field. If I hit M on the marker, you'll see it says comment of marker in the comment field. If I go to the previous one and hit M, you'll see it says name of marker in the name field. Now in the markers panel, it used to only show comments, but now we have the ability to see and search and change names of markers as well. So in the case of these two markers, I put names on them and I could click on them and go to the name. In this case, I put a comment, and they're still all searchable. So if I hit name of marker, you'll see here is the marker where I named the name of marker. So it's just a nice new feature to be able to look at both your names and comments in the markers panel. Another nice new simple addition is the track backwards selector. So in the past we had the track select forward tool right here, and it's pretty obvious what it does. If I click here, it'll select everything on all my tracks from that point forward. If I hold shift while doing it, it does it to a single track. But now we have the same thing going backward. So it's called the track select backward tool, and it works the same way. I can click from any point backward on all tracks, or click from any point backward on the selected track. Just let me quickly move a bunch of clips at once while selecting backward or forward. Another nice new addition we have is the ability to see transparency in the monitor. So let me show you what I mean. I have two titles here, and in the program monitor here, they look exactly the same. But in fact, one of them has a transparent background and one of them has a black background. Well, in the past, I couldn't tell which one is which, but now if I go into the settings, there's a transparency grid. So you can see this one has a black background and this one has a transparent background, which is really nice to help you to be able to move items and see exactly what's behind it and see what's transparent versus what's an actual black background. Whereas here, if I were to move this, you can see there's a black background there. Number 12 is just a nice little enhancement as well, and that's the ability to toggle locks on all video and all audio with a keyboard shortcut, which in the past you just had to toggle all locks on and off. So if I come on over to the keyboard editor, there's a new default shortcut for that, which is Command Option K. And if I search for lock, you'll see there's a lock unlock all video tracks and a lock unlock all audio tracks. So I'll just pick two shortcuts. So for lock unlock all audio tracks, I'll do Command Option Shift A. And for the video tracks, I'll do Command Option Shift V. Hit OK. And now if I want to lock all my video tracks, I could hit Command Option Shift V. And if I want to lock all my audio tracks, Command Option Shift A. And I have that nice control of being able to toggle them separately from each other. Number 13 is the new voiceover recording setup. And it's just simplified the way that you could record voiceovers directly to your track. So let me show you how that works. If I right click on the track I want to do it on, you'll see there's a new option that says voiceover record settings. And you can control what your source is. So I have my Samson Meteor mic. You can see it's picking up my levels. You can choose whether you want a countdown on or not. I'm going to leave that on, and I'm going to change the default file name to voiceover. I'll hit close, and then to enable actual recording on the track, I could right click again, hit customize. I just need to make sure that the little voiceover record microphone is in my icon, so I'll hit OK, and now you can see I could see that icon. If I click on it and you look up to my program monitor, you'll see it gives me a little bit of a countdown. And then it'll start playing my timeline, and I can speak while it's recording. If I hit the space bar or click on this icon, it'll stop my recording. Notice there's also a nice recording dialog there. So I'll hit stop, and you'll see here's the audio that I just recorded. And if I do a match frame on it, you'll see it's called voiceover.wave because that's what I just set up as my name. And it's right in there in my timeline without having to drag it in or do anything too complicated. The 14th feature I want to cover, and this is a huge one. So let's say I have this clip and it appears in my timeline a bunch of times. So it appears here, it appears here, and it appears here. And I want to make all instances of that clip brighter. So in the past I'd have to do the effect on one of the clips and then copy and paste it to the additional ones. And that's a bit cumbersome, especially when you have to find all the instances in a more complicated timeline. But now there's something called the master clip effects, and let me show you how it works. So first thing I want to do is hit F to do a match frame to get me to the actual source clip instead of double clicking to get me to the version of it in my timeline. So I'll hit F, it'll take me to my source clip, and let's say I want to do something like a curves. So I'll search for curves, and then I could just drag that onto my clip, and it's actually been added to the master clip. So if I bring up the brightness here, and I'll just do something really obvious so you guys can see it, you'll notice it's been updated here, here, and here. Now if I click on the effect in the timeline, you'll see there's no effects. And why is that? It's because it's a master clip effect, so it's kind of hidden to the timeline, but it's located on all instances of that clip in any timeline in your project. So again, nothing here, but if I again hit F to do a match frame, then I can tweak that effect. So I can bring down the brightness, and let's say I want to do an RGB curves, I could drag that in there as well, and let's just do something really obvious so you guys can see it. I'll just do a ton of very obvious effects. And if I click on it, you'll see it in all of those instances. So another great usage of the master clip is if you have clips that need certain lookup tables applied. So if you bring a clip in from a red or an array and it has a flat look to it and you want every instance of it to be converted to Rec 709, for instance, you can do that at the master clip level and not have to worry about applying an effect to every instance of that clip. Now the other great thing about the master clip effect is that I can reveal it in the project. I can actually go to export that media and I can have the effects baked in. Now of course I need to use an appropriate preset so it doesn't look like this, but it's a great way to get your effects actually baked into your clips so you can set the look in Premiere and then give it out to other people working on the project. And the 15th and final new feature I want to talk about is the text templates with After Effects. I'm just going to shut off overlays real quick and show you guys how this works. Now, a lot of people will work on, say, lower thirds, but they'll need something a little more complicated than they can make in Premiere. So let's do that. I'm going to open up After Effects and show you how to set this up. And this way you could create more complicated text effects within After Effects, but change the text within Premiere. So let's see how it works. In a new project, I'm just going to create a new composition and I'll call it Text Template. So then I could come over to the Advanced tab, and the important thing to check here is this box that says Template, Unlock Text Layers Editable in Premiere Pro. So I'll check that, and then I'm going to create 2 layers. Let's say one is called Title. I'll make that a bit bigger. And I will create another one, call that Subtitle. And I'll make that one smaller. And I'm going to change the color. And then you could do cool things that you only have access to in After Effects. So for instance, I'm going to click on the 3D box. I'm going to come over to the Effects presets and I'll go to Browse Presets. Now I'll launch Bridge and I'll come over to the Text presets. And maybe I'll do something with 3D text. And I'll just do this 3D fallback, scramble, and blur. Double click on that. And I have that crazy effect going on. Could even do things like adding lights. So I'll just add a new point light, hit OK, and I'm just going to drag that down closer to my text. Now I have this crazy title set up, and I can do some animation in here as well. So I'll just click on the title layer, and let's say I want to rotate that in. So I'll just set up some keyframes and then I'll set them all to 0 and make that happen over 17 frames, and I can do an ease on the keyframes. And let's even start this slightly out of frame, so I can do a position as well. So it doesn't look pretty, but you kind of get the point. You can come in and make a background as well. Just really make it crazy while we're at it. And set this up. And just make a bar there. So I have my crazy lower third here. I hit save. And I'm just going to save that to my desktop. And I'm going to call that Text Template. Now, I come on over to Premiere. And I just want to import that title. So I'll double click, go to my desktop, import text template, and it'll come up with a dialog asking me what composition. I only have one, so I'll do text template. So I could bring it in and bring it into my timeline, and oh, it still says title and subtitle. But if I come on over here, double click it and load it into the source monitor, come up to the effects control and actually control what these say. So I could change the subtitle to mountain scene, and I could change the title to horrible show. So now when I come back to my sequence, I have horrible show, mountain scene, and you can see there's my animation built in. Now, of course, that's a horrible title, but you could do some really powerful stuff with this based on just being able to template things out in After Effects and control what the actual text says in Premiere. So this is a huge, huge improvement to the operability between the programs, so you can just quickly do this kind of versioning without having to go back and forth quite as much. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Of course, there are plenty more features in the release, but for anything we missed, check our site in the upcoming weeks for updated tutorials and videos on the new release. Please be sure to follow us on social media and keep in touch.